What is globalization?
It's defined as the global spread of goods,
services and capital,
information, ideas, and people
from one country to another.
But what does that really mean?
and how does that affect us?
Coffee is the world's second largest, most valuable traded commodity behind petroleum. There are approximately 25 million coffee farmers across the globe.
70% of the world's cocoa are supplied by Western Africa. However, there is only 5% of 70 comes from a Fairtrade certified farm.
The people who work on these farms are forced to live in poverty. They have no access to clean drinking water and are exposed to harmful toxins.
These high demands require the need for globalization, and globalization leads to a detrimental effect known as human trafficking.
When you think of human trafficking, you probably think of drug smuggling, but it is organized and managed behavior that can be defined as the supply of human beings for prostitution, sweatshop labor, street begging, domestic work, marriage, adoption, construction, armed conflicts, and in the case of coffee, fruit, and chocolate, agriculture work.
You may think that's so far away from me, but it's really not.
It's crazy to think that every single day we consume Dole and Chiquita products and we don't even know what they've done in the past. Both companies have hired AUC paramilitaries to perform services for them, violent services. In fact, Dole hired them to drive small farmers out of their land so that they could plant their own food. In the wake of 9/11, the United States made it illegal to even know about terrorist activities. And because of this, the CEO of Chiquita Bananas turned himself in for using terrorist tactics to scare people away from his own workers. They fully knew what they were doing and knew that they were hiring these armed forces, which is a form of human trafficking. How are we as consumers supposed to trust them and know that they're actually holding up to what they're saying they're doing?
Western Africa accounts for 70% of cocoa production, and they use child laborers, children aged 11 to 15 years old, sometimes even younger, given little to no pay, and are forced to work for these big, huge companies. Cadbury and Nestle are going to be extremely tempted to buy from them. And the reason why it's so cheap is because they use child slaves. They're not paid anything, they're beaten. And there was a whole lot of effort that was put into trying to eliminate child labor. The situation did seem to be mildly fixed for the moment. As you can see, if you go on Nestle's website, they say that there's no use of child labor in their supply chain. But in reality, there is. There was a BBC News article that was released saying that there was a ton of violations against their supplier code.
Over the past few decades, large corporations have gotten greedy and have come in and exploited these countries by paying them extremely low wages to make larger profits and also keep their investors happy. Recent studies have shown that the farmers producing the coffee beans for Western consumers only receive less than 1% of the actual selling price of the coffee. This falling price of the coffee bean is particularly due to the competitiveness of the companies and also the greed to make larger profits and keep their investors happy. In 2010, Starbucks cut their costs by $580 million. That year, Howard Schultz, the CEO at the time, made a roughly 25% increase in his salary, while Starbucks lowered their workforce by roughly 19%. Folgers also completely ignores fair trade and its benefits. On any occasion, the subject is completely ignored and their website has absolutely no corporate social responsibility tabs or indicators.
Behaviors such as fair trade are a good start for response to human trafficking and globalization. A study found that fair trade farmers in Uganda were better off than farmers who worked under organic certifications.
However, it is definitely important to note that fair trade certifications do not fix all the issues. While it has good meaning and good implications, it is certainly not an answer to forced labor, nor does it answer the problems with poverty. Many families who have seen the direct effect of fair trade in their communities have reported that their new earnings have allowed them to support their families, but do not allow them to get ahead. Fair trade is clearly a step in the right direction, but not necessarily the solution to the negative effects of globalization.
Globalization is a highly contested topic. There's no consensus to its meaning and significance. But everything that we just brought up in this video is its meaning. The fruit companies hiring terrorists, the bruised 11-year-old slaving away with no pay, the CEO of Starbucks getting a 25% raise when there was $580 million in cuts. It's the initiative some people are trying to take by purchasing fair trade products.
Globalization may have a different meaning for every person, but that doesn't mean that its meaning is insignificant.
To you, globalization may sound like cheaper food, but what does it sound like to the farmers?